$50 per hour. Okay. Or you can buy the skateboard and then just rent some safety equipment that goes with it. Okay? So we're going to try to figure out then what, on one side, how much it would cost if I bought the skateboard and how much it would cost if I rented all the equipment. If I abbreviate EQUIP, is that okay? Do you know what I mean by that?
Yes.
Equipment. And I want to know when they're going to be the same. What's the break-even point? So to buy the skateboard, what does that cost? $60 one time, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then you are going to have to rent some safety equipment still for how much? $150 an hour. So I'm going to write 1.5 H. When will that be the same as so the same as equals renting everything? So what would you write on this side, Cody? 5.5 per hour, so H. Okay. And what does H stand for?
Hours.
Hours, so time. So how would I solve this then? Shia? So now I don't have any like terms on this side, but I can move the H terms to the other side. Is that what you meant? Cool. So what would I do with the 1.5? Good. So I'm going to subtract 1.5H from both sides. Now I have 60 equals 3.5H, and so I should divide. Did somebody do that already, I heard? Or not? Oopsies, what's my mistake, Abby? What's 5.5 minus 1.5?
4.
Silly. Abby did. Sorry about that. Alright, so yeah, 5.5, I don't know what I was doing. Was I subtracting, I don't know, 2? Minus 550 minus 150 is 4. And yeah, what is 60 divided by 4? 15, and we're going to put a label on that. 15 what? Alright, so at 15 hours, those would cost the same, and then after 15 hours it would make more sense to buy the skateboard because it's going to be cheaper, right? Because you're going to continue to only rent the equipment for less than the rest of the stuff. Alright, good. The next example that I have, it has to do with something called vertical angles, and on your homework they're going to actually be drawn for you, but on your note-taking guide we're going to draw them. So what vertical angles are is they're pretty much formed by two lines. So would you draw two lines, and we're going to make them form almost like an X. Vertical angles are the ones that are across from one another, okay? And so I'm going to just point to them where my pen is right now. See where I just put dots? Those would be a pair of vertical angles. Or the other pair in this figure would be the ones like on the side. So I'm going to, where I put those red dots. What does it look like is true about vertical angles? Riley? They are across from each other. But what else do you think is true about them? Yeah. So these two, you're right, these two together, if I would cover them up, would make a straight line, right? Do you guys know what a straight line, what the angle measurement of that would be? 180. So hopefully what you could figure out is, oh, if these make a straight line, and these make a straight line, these two actually have to be equal to one another. So if I give you vertical angles and I tell you what they are, as long as they are across from each other, vertical angles are going to always be equal to one another. So I'm going to write that statement down so you don't forget it. All right, now, I don't know which one this is, the bigger or the smaller, but here's what I'm going to do. I gave you two expressions for the vertical angles, max, and I am going to write those down. So I have 5x minus 3 and 2x plus 12. Now just keep in mind when I find these angles, because I don't know how big these values are, they might not be drawn to scale, okay? But if I give you them, just put them across from one another, and I told you that they're equal. So how could I figure out what these angles are? What do you think, Riley? Yeah, I just told you vertical angles are equal, right? So can't I write this? 5x minus 3 equals 2x plus 12. Would you guys solve for x, please? So I got that x equals 5. Okay, now we always want to be careful that we're making sure we answer the question, because that does not mean that this angle is 5 degrees. That just means x equals 5. How do you think I would find the measure of the angle? Like, how could I find, I'm gonna put this here. I'm gonna put a parentheses and write degrees here. That's what that means. 5 from 180? Does it say that the measure of the angle is x? No. Caitlin, what does it say the measure of the angle is? Either one. 5x. Yeah, and now don't I know what x is? Yeah, we're going to plug x in. Okay, so for 5x minus 3, I am going to plug that value in. Let's do it. 5 times 5, 25 minus 3 is 22. So these angles are 22 degrees. I'm going to box that too because that's the measure of the angle. Now what if, Caitlin, I put 5 in for this one?
You did 26.
Same thing. Well, that should happen though, shouldn't it? Because aren't vertical angles equal? Okay, so does it matter which equation you put it in? No, it doesn't. You're going to plug it into one of the two because they're equal to one another. Okay, so those are some applications. Let's take a look at two special cases. Sally, do you mind closing the door for me? Thank you. And so something interesting sometimes happens, and actually this happened on one of the scramble steps yesterday when we solved the equation. So let's first do the first example. I'm going to get rid of the parentheses. So I have 4 minus 4y equals negative, now I'm going to distribute, so negative 4y, what's negative 2 times negative 2? Plus 4. Okay. So if you were to solve this equation just like we did yesterday, what would you do first? So let's say I said, okay, I'm going to add this 4y to both sides. Okay. Well, over here, what am I left with? Just a 4. And over here, I'm left with, no, 4. Did you distribute? Wait a second. What happened to the y? It wouldn't be 0. Well, actually, Abby, 0 is one of the answers. Is this 4, does 4 equal 4?
Yeah.
Yes. No, what this means is, no matter what you put in for y, 4 is always going to equal 4. That doesn't mean there's no solution. That means there's an infinite number of solutions. Watch, what if I put 1 in? If you put 1 in, it works. If you put 0 in, it works. If you put 2 in, it works. If you put 3 in, it works. You're gonna, because 4 always equals 4. So if you solve and you get variables dropping out and you get a true statement, this is true, agreed? This means that y can be anything. And so I'm going to write, that means there is an infinite number of solutions. I can't write them all down because every number is a solution, every single number.
I just thought negative 4 plus 4, 0. I mean, is it like negative 4 plus 4 is 0?
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where I'm going. I'm confused.
Is it negative 4y plus 4y 0 on that side?
Okay, because I'm just like,
So the 4y's are gone on both sides.
okay.
So I have 4 from right here equals 4 from right there.
Okay.
Let's see what happens in the next one. So first of all, let's add the like terms. What do I have on the right side then? If I added the like terms, can't I add z and negative 7z together?
Yeah.
What is that? Not 8z, no. No. Negative 6z plus 10. 1 minus 7 is negative 6. Okay, something similar happens because we go and we notice a negative 6 and a negative 6, right? So what would we add to both sides? 6z, correct? You following what I'm doing here? Okay. So I do that. And now this cancels. I'm left with what? 8 equals 10. Once again, the variables dropped out. But here when they dropped out, I got something that was true. And so what that means is it's true all the time. Actually, I'm going to write here, what does this mean? This is called an identity. An identity is something that's always equal to one another. Okay? That was this one right here. This is 8 equals 10. Is this true? No, and this is never true, right? Does 8 ever equal 10? Not in our math system, okay? What this means then is that there is no solution. So these are the two special cases. If you get all the variables to cancel out and you get a true statement, that means y can be anything. It is an identity. And if you get all the variables to drop out and you get a false statement, that means there's no solution to that. Okay? Question?